All right, welcome back and thank you for keeping it Citizen TV. Daybreak it is. I'm having a sit down with a panel. Actually, it's a very balanced panel. I didn't think about that. Two ladies and two gentlemen. We have with me in studio Mheshimiwa Richard Onyonka.
So can I finish my few comments?
Yes.
You're giving
no. Let me just run in case you're just joining us. And we have also Diana Gishengo, the Executive Director, the Institute of Social Accountability. We have Mheshimiwa David Ochieng, MP Ugenya constituency, and Njeri Maina, the woman representative for Kirinyaga County. In case you're just joining us, we are looking at issues that are shaping conversation in the country. This particular morning, the state that now the head of state is currently in, of course, just after unveiling the first part of the list of the cabinet that he is reconstructing. We are also looking at Parliament that is resuming their sittings today. There's a lot that they will be doing, including even vetting that particular list of nominees of cabinet. And we just want to pick up from where we left before we went on break. And Mheshimiwa Ochieng, you suggested that you had very deep concerns about the list that was unveiled by the head of state concerning the cabinet. And one of the key mandates that you have as members of parliament is to vet the people who will be coming to, in front of you. I mean, I don't know whether the public can have that faith and hope that parliamentarians are going to do something about the key concerns that have been raised with regards to some of the people that have made it to that particular list, Mheshimiwa.
I must say, first of all, that, for example, the CSs that have been returned, some of them are my very close friends. Like Kindiki taught me for 4 years. I was his researcher when he was doing his PhD. I know him so well. Chichiri is my very close friend. But I wanted to say this, that no one must serve as CS in this country. There are not those who must be ministers.
Among the 6 or?
I'm just saying, no, in Kenya, not everyone, nobody must.
Oh, it's not a must.
So that,
it's not a do or die.
That you must be minister, or that you must be PS, or you must be something, you must be MP. No. You know, when these young guys went to the streets and the president decided to, dismiss his cabinet, I thought he was serious. Once you dismiss these guys, it doesn't matter whether you think one of them is competent or not. You already said they don't deserve to be in that cabinet. And I'm not talking about public lynching. I'm not talking about mob justice or injustice for that matter. No. You can't dismiss them, then 2 weeks later and then tell us that now you're going to bring them back. I believe there's a level at which there must be some modicum of decency and use of common sense in the way you do our things. If the reason you dismiss your cabinet is that they have, in quotes, failed you, because that's what you said.
Yes.
So in 2 weeks' time, which university have they gone to? What have they just done that have made them now, look like they know everything else, they can help you out? And this is what the young people are talking about. We as leaders, we are being, in fact, the cartoon yesterday was that we are being tone deaf. We aren't listening. I want to ask my 5 friends, because I served with Wahome, a very tough lady, Emiano, senior lawyer. If they want to help this president today, they would refuse their nomination to cabinet.
Okay.
So that
suggestion.
Because it looks like the public thinks that there's something really about them that they must be the cabinet. They should disabuse us of that notion. Step aside and say, no, if our being in cabinet is going to cause problems for the president, for the country, we stand aside. Duale is a very good leader. I served with him for 2 terms in parliament. I mean, tough guy. But you must not die with government. Yeah, you can say, this, I think, I've had my chance. If my being in this space is not tenable, then I cede ground for someone else so that we are able to build together, move forward together. You'll have a chance to serve in the future. That's what I would tell my friends that end there. In terms of the vetting, which, if you allow me, I could make a comment on. The way we do our vetting in Parliament today is such that, there are things that would pass, there are things that would not pass. But sometimes we don't put our energies on the things that are necessary for us to ensure that someone is competent to serve. This cabinet that is just leaving, I don't know if you remember when we vetted them, the issues that were raised out on everybody and all that. And I just wanted to say something as I end on this, that when I was younger, I listened to President Kibaki campaigning in 02. And then I listened to Raila and Kibaki campaigning in 07. Then I listened to Uhuru and Raila campaign, and then last elections. All of them have always been citing Singapore and Malaysia and South Korea about how they leapfrog the development quickly. One of the major cardinal principles of this country that I've mentioned is meritocracy in appointing public officials. Competence is key, has always been. Now, we're not going to build Singapore. We're not going to build Malaysia or South Korea in this country if we still have to second-guess those who we appoint. It won't work. I want to
we also have to look at the team that is in charge of bringing that success.
Meritocracy is very key. Competence is very key. This thing about regional balance, ethnic balance should come third, fourth. The first thing is, because you're not going to have a minister of agriculture who can differentiate between fertilizer and stones. It doesn't going to work. We're not going to run this country in that manner. If you're not going to get a minister for water who can differentiate between water and oil, it's surfing. We must put our mouths where our monies are.
All right, Mheshimiwa Ochieng, I also want to just quickly cross over to, Mheshimiwa Onyonka on whether, could the president have been misunderstood? I mean, because we are suddenly surprised that a cabinet that was deemed unfit to actually help the government achieve whatever it wanted to achieve, already on the first part of the list, I would say a majority, 6 is the majority of the 11, are the same people who served in the previous cabinet. I mean, what is your understanding of what could be going on here? Were they the good people that he actually had to retain in his team for things to work in this country?
Thank you so much. I had expected that the president would have interpreted everything differently, that he would have understood the issues which are being raised. The reason why this cabinet is being rejected by the Gen Zs and many people, including myself, I have a friend actually who was appointed. I even congratulated him. But the point that is critical out here is very simple. Why is the president sticking with these people who everybody knows their character, their behavior, their past, and their histories? Not that I'm passing aspersions against them. Why is it that the president is not able to pick new Kenyans who are highly qualified, who are people of substance, including the young? I had expected him to pick about 4 members of these Gen Z groups. Purely not because he was trying, it's for show, simply because some of them have been so brilliant. If you listen to how those kids are arguing, you are like, yes, I mean, I see this one can actually be a minister for environmental issues. When you are looking, you can say, hey, this one I think can make an engineer. He's an engineer. He can actually be the minister for ICT. They know their stuff. All they need to do is be taken to Kenya School of Government, and in a month or 2, they're done. The challenges affecting our country are much more weighty. They need a deeper understanding on what it is. It needs people who are going to be persuasive and yet reasonable, because the Gen Z community is not unreasonable, contrary to what everybody thinks. I mean, I repeated when we started here, why are they going to the airport? Imagine we are signing off our airport to be run by a private company, which is going to hold that for 30 years. And after the contract expires, they would keep equity in that arrangement of our airports at the rate of 18%, eternally. How did somebody sign an agreement like that? You see, so the questions that we have got...
Did you, as elected leaders, have wind of whatever arrangements or whatever agreements were going on with the...
Actually, I was the whistleblower. I'm the one who has presented all the documents to the Senate, and I've given it to the media, if you check. It was a whistleblower from France, a young Kenyan boy who has been working in the sovereign fund of some country, saw the document passing through his desk. He forwarded to me, he said, Onyonka, the airport is gone. I don't know what you're going to do. Try your level best. These are the facts. Why can't the president stop anybody playing these corruption games? The point many people are asking, why are we having ourselves dig a hole which we are heading into, and yet we know what the solutions are? All right. Even when people are complaining about us trying to destroy the country because the Gen Zs are asking for questions, I've even heard somebody say that they're asking for questions which are unreasonable. They just want free education. They want to make sure that NHIF works. They want to make sure that when somebody is going to a hospital, they find medicines. They want to make sure that when you finish university and you are last in, you can't get a job when those ones who are before you 6 years ago are still tamarking in the streets. And then because this one who finished the other day happens to be my daughter, because I am a senator or because I'm a PS, then I employ him and I leave somebody. What do you do with those people who are at the deep end? And these children are at the deep end, highly qualified, gone to school quite well, don't even have any criminal record. They are at home. They are unemployed. Some of these kids, when you go to the villages like where I come from and David, at the village level, the counties are not even employing them because this misgovernance that we are having at the national level is what has percolated to the county government.
All right.
You have governors who are employing their relatives. You have governors who are pilfering the funds. I mean, I thought the president was going to look at the thing from the top and sweep it all the way down.
But I'm wondering, though, Njeri, the president seems to be having a lot on his plate, and actually even talks have been that these are problems that didn't begin yesterday with just his administration alone. Kenya Kwanza did not create the problems that we're facing today. We've had arguments such as those. It seems like it's not easier than it's being said for him to really bring this country to where it's supposed to be. I mean, there's a lot of dynamics that sort of go into play when it comes to coming up with the proper solution for what the country is facing, Jerry.
It seems to be a catch-22 situation for the president. And Article 132 gives him the power to nominate members that he prefers for the cabinet. And then it also, Constitution goes ahead and gives Parliament the power to vet the persons that the president nominates. And I would not want to preempt, because those nominees, once gazetted, and the National Assembly is resuming today, I am certain that the priority business will be vetting the nominees in their respective committees. And then, of course, the report is tabled on the floor of the House. The members get to debate maybe 10 or 20 minutes. If there's any dissenting opinions, members of the public also contribute because they send to us memorandums that we can present on the floor of the House. So for me, I think the issue has been a systemic failure for a long time. The system that was set in place once we gained independence is a system that does not, one, work for the common mwananchi. It is a system that only entrenches bad governance, mediocrity, corruption. And even as Kenyans, we must also have that conversation with ourselves. What kind of leaders do we elect? Because then it reflects upon the society that we have. We cannot say that, you know, these leaders elected themselves. They did not put themselves into office. And at the local level, governance in all sectors, the young people must be involved. I'll give you an example. In my county, you know, and I'm glad that Senator Onyonka says that it's the same in Kisii County. The hospitals do not have basic medication, even painkillers, even gloves. The system is not working for Wanjiku on the ground. There's no infrastructure. So you tell the Kenyan person.
Are you, as part of the team of the president, are you passing this message to him? Is he listening? Because you seem to be having an understanding of what the country is going through. You understand the challenges. You have talked so passionately about even what the Gen Z demands are, but is he a listening president coming from his camp?
Oh, I do. I do pass across the message. And, you know, the good member of parliament for Sylvanus is a member of parliament for Mugirango. We used to have a WhatsApp group where he removed me. Perhaps I'm very opinionated for his liking. But what I want to say is that I do pass across the message. Whether it is taken into context is something else. But we must all be accountable for for what we have put in place. We must all be responsible for governance at the local level. As we are calling the national government to order, we must also occupy the counties. That is where all manner of looting is happening. Wanton wastage of public resources with no accountability.
This group, just to understand, this group was part of it was to advise the president and talk about such issues, or what was the purpose of the group that they removed you from?
No, it was just a group where we would air our views as members of Kenya Kwanza. But, you know, I have found it quite unfortunate that some people have an issue.
Welcome in that.
Apparently, some people had an issue with my views. But what I can say is that we must listen to what the people are saying. It is that the system is not working. And it is not only Gen Z who are saying the system is not working. Even the common Wanjiko in Kirinyaga County is saying this system is not working anymore. We pay taxes. And Kenyans do not have an issue with paying tax. They just want to see the tax applied or cascading down to development, to service delivery. We devolved corruption from where I sit, from what I have seen at the counties. People do not want to be held accountable on, say, perhaps project allocations. If we have a level 4 hospital, tell us how much money was spent on this hospital. Wanjiko does not know. People have a basic concern with having a discussion to have free education, because we want as politicians to be dangling the carrot to Wanjiko when we near the election period and tell them, oh, I gave you a bursary, so you must vote for me. So it is a whole accountability issue, and we must also as a people sit back and say, how can we fix this? I can assure you that the president cannot fix the systemic issues by himself.
All right. Then your organization is listed among 16 that are currently on the spot. Serious stuff going around that civil society organizations could just be part of the sponsors of the, violence and the unruly behavior that we have seen out there. I'm just saying what, is going around. And we have also had, the latest development on what was said yesterday, that among the 16, only 3 apparently are registered, the rest, we are wondering which organizations are these and are they operating legally? I mean, a lot has been said about the civil society organizations. Diana, what are your thoughts about what is going on?
Thank you very much. But let me first speak to where we are as a country, and that this is a systemic problem. When you are the driver of a bus or even a car, and it gets a puncture, when you're the driver, you're the one who has the responsibility to fix it.
Yes.
The constitutional authority given to the president, he cannot afford to go back to just history. Yes, there is history, but he is the current leader. And for that reason, he has the highest responsibility, together with other people, to be the one addressing this. This is not a time for shifting blame. It is a time of finally consulting all the people that are required technically to devise all the solution. When you think about corruption, the young people and the people who believe in this country are going for every institution. There are people who have had village protests over Kenya Power. That didn't need to go to the president, but people are saying things are not working and we are not okay with them not working. Is that very, very problematic? I don't think so.
But have these people been sponsored to be out there?
Let's imagine now. Let's get to that level.
These people.
And I'll speak for TISA, the Institute for Social Accountability. Our mandate is active citizenship for accountable government. That is what we have always worked on since our registration in 2008 as a trust. They said we are registered under societies, and so we are registered as a trust. We've worked on issues of accountability, starting from CDF, that we now agree if we had free education, there would be no place for CDF.
Absolutely.
We've worked on accountability around devolution, counties. The Institute is the reason that the Senate, the Division of Revenue, must first pass
Yes.
before we go to appropriate the rest of the budget. Is that a wrong thing? No. Adherence to the Constitution. I have been on these streets of the media when we said, ultimately, when it comes to the budget and revenue-raising measures, the buck stops with Parliament. Speak to your members of Parliament. Kenyans may have listened, and that is something that is in the Constitution. But you know, sometimes I'm even tickled, gosh, are we this influential? It's amazing. It would be amazing if it was true. But look at the millions of Kenyans who've been on the streets. There was a day there was over 4 million people across the country. I have never funded a demonstration, so I don't know. But I'm told for the type of people you see on the street, they would need 1,000, 2,000. So if you have 1 million people on the street, and you're paying them 1,000, how much do you need?
100.
1 billion. 1 billion. That is not a quarter of the entire funding that has come from the Ford Foundation. Funding that is supposed to last 24 months. We live on very meager budgets. I will never afford an assistant, 10 secretaries. No, I drive myself everywhere because our budgets are very, very lean. When you say people are funded by foreign money, they are funded on foreign taxpayers. And the PBO ought to come so that we start funding our own people, civil society organization, using our own taxes. The Public Benefit Organization Act was effected in May this year. There's a whole year, transition year, for compliance. For those who are moving from NGO coordination, they move automatically to PBO. If you're registered under another body and you want to enjoy the benefits of being a public benefit organization, which includes not paying tax, being exempt from things like income tax, things like that, receiving money from government, benefit, preferential treatment when it comes to public procurement, you apply. Organizations are thinking, do I want that as yet? And there's a whole period of compliance.
There's still time for compliance.
For compliance.
Right.
And unfortunately, for government, from the president to the PS Foreign Affairs, and now to the PBO chair and ED to take that route, let us protect our media, our civil society, even as we enjoy this moment when all Kenyans are speaking up for themselves.
But
we are a democratic...
Too much ado about foreign funding. My president just told us 2 months ago that his trip to America was funded by some foreigners. Was that mutiny? Was that treason? I mean, we are taking debt. We are our budget is funded
all our debt,
by debt.
All
foreign money.
Foreign money.
No,
the problem is not
we cannot
money.
be that simplistic.
But the timing...
Just allow me to interject and request. I've seen a post on the Citizen TV Kenya Facebook page, and it says, I don't understand the frustration of young people. I actually said, I understand the frustration of young people. So kindly, before I am roasted on social media, kindly have that amended.
I'll give you a minute to tell Kenyans that you understand their plight. What is that plight from where you sit?
Thank you.
I'm giving you a minute.
I do understand the high rate of unemployment, and I understand the struggles of Gen Z and millennials, because I can relate from an age perspective, and it is painful. But what I have said is that it is not the making of the Kenya Kwanza government. It is a systemic failure and a long-running issue we've had, because the systems we put in place when we gained independence are not systems that are pro-Kenyan people. They are systems that only serve the rich and the elites, and the systems that entrench corruption as a fiber in our society. So as we have the conversation we must also think about our social engineering as a people, because corruption runs down to every Kenyan service delivery.
Okay, that was Jerry. She said she understands the plight of the Kenyan people. Mheshimiwa Onyonka, I'm also keen on just the timing of this, even just crack down on civil society. There's also questions that have been raised with regards to how we do our work as the media, you know, reporting on whatever is happening in the country. Concerns that have been raised, some could make sense, but the timing of all this, are we suddenly shifting our focus from what the country is currently facing? What is your analysis of you know, some of these issues coming up right now?
Even when it has been very difficult for the Kenyan media to survive on some of these things because of the risks. You see, when you're fighting corruption, it fights back. Mm-hmm. I want to say that the Kenyan media has done us proud, because for the first time, Kenya is right there. But I also feel that the reason why the Kenyan media has really picked up its socks is because social media has been everywhere. They post everything, and that is what you see. What the president is doing is from an old notebook. Look at what has happened historically in our country. If you go to 1970, when Jaramogi left and went and formed KPU, immediately after that, the narrative was Jaramogi was being funded from Russia. There were, but nobody would say at that time, because I happen to have gotten this information, is that some of the cabinet members in the Kenyatta government were actually receiving money from the Americans. You come to the 80s when the coup happened, and then after that, you had civil society begin to talk about bad governance, a new constitution, basic rights, human rights, when all those things were being discussed about where our elite and the ruling class was actually mistreating and mismanaging the poor Kenyans. Remember that if you follow up the history of a country, that's why you hear when JM was saying Kenya is a country of 1 million multimillionaires and 10 million beggars. That's when you're talking about the class issue coming up from that time. Then you cross over. I don't want to make people bored because of the history. You come to Uhuru's government. All right. There were also questions which were raised about Uhuru's management. He's getting us into debt, but unfortunately, Uhuru was with President William Ruto. So this is their baby, which they carried. Kenya moved from a country that was secure, that had its financials in order. From the time Kibaki left, our debt was 1.2 trillion. By the time Uhuru left, he had incurred debts of about 9 trillion. He was spending 1 trillion shillings a year. All right? So in a period that Uhuru was actually sustaining himself as a president of this republic and halfway through, or three-quarters way with Deputy President William Ruto, the amount of money that went into either waste or that cannot be accountable, the control of, the Auditor General has said, I see 1 trillion shillings which was borrowed, but I can't place my fingers on it. The Gen Zs are listening to that. They are not strangers anymore. These kids understand the figures. They understand what 1 trillion, with 1 trillion shillings, we could have paid for SGR. We could have gotten 3 railway lines which are expressly electronic, which fly from Mombasa to Busia at a speed of 200 kilometers per hour. What did we do? We took an old thing, as usual, got ourselves into these corruption arrangements and deals which we, the ruling class, have gotten into. Look at where we are. So these kids are saying, we don't want stories now. We know. Tell us what you are going to do on free education. Tell me why I don't have NSSS. Who doesn't know why the health insurance system failed? Because we, the leadership of this country, are the ones who go and organize to create clinics where we register them with NHIF and we siphon money out of the system. Why is it difficult to fix that? It is not whether you are going to have NSSF or NHF. The two outfits are going to be corrupt prone. I mean, these are things that everybody knows. Why are we unable to pay our workers their pensions?
All right.
But just to add, and thinking about what has just happened in the last few days, look at the urgency with which the PS Foreign Affairs has written for accountability from Ford. We've been asking for debt contracts in this country, including Parliament, for years. Those will not be delivered. You will not see EACC, Treasury, everybody coiling back to go and give Kenyans things that will ultimately redeem this country. Letters have been written to DCI, investigate media, investigate civil society. Have we seen letters to DCI to investigate who was the one underwriting Eurobond that came at a very high interest rate, and we do not know where it has gone to? We have misplaced priorities, and that is what Kenyans need addressed. That is not too much to ask, and we have institutions that they have shown can be overzealous enough in the wrong direction. We're only rerouting them to the right direction.
All right, Mheshimiwa.
What I was saying is that the president and his government finds itself in a very unique situation, in my opinion. One that can give us a new republic. One that can midwife the crisis we are in into a new Kenya. I believe so. But I fear that these opportunities are being squandered every single day. You know, debt. We are not saying William Ruto took all the debts. No one is saying that Kenya Kwanza took the debts. No one is saying that. No one is saying that William Ruto brought corruption to the country. No one is saying that William Ruto brought tribalism in the country. No. We are saying that we are at this point where we need to draw the line. That we lived this buffoonery for too long. We've lived this lie, this theft for too long. It's a time to draw the line and say, from now on, we want to live a better life. And what these young guys are asking for is, Mr. President, lead us in founding this new republic. That's what they're asking for.
Thank you.
They're not asking. They're not saying historical things. No, they're saying yes.
They're not blaming it all on
him. And that's why they're
not even accusing him.
And that's why
they're not accusing him.
And that's what they're saying. We are not our parents. They're saying we want a new life going forward. I wish this was understood, so that no one is being blamed. We're not opportunity, because what the government has been doing for the last 6 weeks, Serafin, is to try to play PR. When the president formed a committee to for example, do a forensic thing on the debt, I saw PR. When you go out blaming Ford Foundation, it is PR. These guys have given us a very good chance. And that's why I want to pray this morning to the police, everybody, stop killing our young people. Stop abducting people. Address this issue. It's a time for a new Kenya. Please use this opportunity to create a new environment where we all are. No, I mean, because if you talk about tribalism, just draw the line and say yes. And I've said this severally. For my cabinet, I will appoint one minister from every community. Where all the ministries end, I will start with 2 PSs of community. Create a new Kenya. Just do the right thing.
But wouldn't we be sinking back to, you know, the trap of trying to impress? Because I believe earlier there was that talk of, let's look at competency, let's look at who. But
that's the point. You see, the Constitution talks about these things. Gatiba talks about competence. It talks about it. It talks about ethnic diversity. It talks about gender. And so, for example, and I say this with so much respect, if you went to Kisii today, I'm saying you'll get some professor who is so well schooled in educational matters.
Absolutely.
You don't have to say
absolutely.
If you went,
that was personal.
No. If you went to Nyeri, if you went to Nyeri, and
you will find highly qualified.
I mean, you cannot be picking just because you want to pick from. If you want to pick a Luo, pick the best in terms of what you're dealing with. If you're going to pick a Luya, pick the best in the area we're concerned with. But the thing is, let's not be cosmetic. And above all, I just want to request the president. This isn't about him and his government. This is about the survival of this country going forward. Right. He can be a very good midwife. in this process.
He can be the hero.
Let him not look at blaming who is doing what to where. And that's why I don't agree with this issue of trying to apportion blame on civil society or anybody for that matter.
But Ochieng, you sound like you're taking a different turn. You know, you've been very close to this government, to the president. Do you tell him the same things you're telling us?
You know, I've said.
Do you advise him? Do you create this picture to him?
I wish you asked me that one.
I've said this severally.
You sound very different.
I've said this severally, Safin. That when you joined Kenya Kwanza, there was no requirement for us to leave our brains at the door.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't a requirement that we leave our brains and then we get into Kenya Kwanza. No. We joined with our brains intact. And that's why someone cannot tell me that because I see things differently from my other colleagues in Kenya Kwanza, I've changed. No, it's me. This is the way I think we should run this country. And we should not be, put into some bucket and say that because you're in Kenya Kwanza, you must think this particular way. No. And these are things
So you're still in Kenya Kwanza?
Of course.
Absolutely.
These are things I say publicly and privately.
All right.
That we must listen to each other.
I know all of you have
and Stephen, before I finish, please, you can be right most of the times, even all the times, but sometimes it's not about being right. It's something about listening to the other. How do they feel about your being right? What do they perceive about your being right? How do we ensure that your being right also accommodates other people's views? Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you see the way I'm looking at you?
Okay, you'll come in next. I again want to say this. Our democracy, which we have in our constitution, which was promulgated 2010, was deliberately designed to make somebody like David say what he's saying. We are Democrats. We can decide to be nationalists to help the country, or we can decide to be conformists and continue to handle the country as if nothing is wrong with it, and that is how we've been behaving. Look at the headline today on the Star newspapers. It's mind-boggling. Let me tell you what it says. Kenya Airways risks ban in EU over safety. We are unable now to service our aeroplanes. This is what we've been telling Kenya Airways for the last 6 months. Why? They can't buy spares. Are you with me? We have an airline where we have sold all of our historically wonderful routes, including the UK, Heathrow. We sold Heathrow. All right? And then guess what? What does the Rwanda government do? It gets Qatar Airlines. They go to Rwanda. They first agree to build an airport for Rwanda Air. Then after that, what do they do? They're going to supply 40 aeroplanes to Rwanda Air, which is partnering with Qatar. Isn't that brilliant? Isn't that what Kenyans expect us to do? Then what do? We have ourselves. Look at the education sector. Kenyans were the best trained, best qualified individuals anywhere in East and Central Africa, leave alone African continent. Now, we can buy our exams. We can sell those exams. We can bribe the teachers to make sure they give you first-class honors where you're basically a danda. Those are the things Gen Zs. Those are the things. Right. Those are the things the Gen Zs are saying. They want a country that is fair. Yeah. They want a country that is just. They want a country that gives everybody an equal opportunity.
Jerry.
You know, I was looking at the good senator who, when I came, said he has become a prophet. And I don't want him to prophesy anything amiss about me. So that's why I gave him the chance to speak. What I want to say is, let's also take another perspective in this and ask, how are we holding ourselves accountable as Kenyans? There's something that I have spoken about for as long as I can remember, the politics of tokenism. It is so expensive to run for any seat, not only political seat. Even, you know, right now we are having the tea sector elections. We have coffee sector elections from time to time. It is so expensive because we have made politics and governance and leadership about tokenism. The first thing, and I really thank the people of Kirinyaga County because they voted me when I was just newly admitted advocate. So I told them I have no money to give you guys, but I have the vision and I really want to lead this county. But when you look at my case, it was an exception. And that is why you see a lot of people, or the political class in general perspective, are people who you say are moneyed in society. If I come to you as a leader and I give you 200 or 300 shillings for you to vote for me, you lose the moral authority to hold me accountable. And that is where we have systemic corruption stemming from leadership. Because once that member of parliament, once that governor, once that board member gets into a position, they're thinking about how they're going to win the next election. So as a people, and I said we must also have a conversation about our social engineering. As a people, we must also ask ourselves, as we call out our leaders, as we want to hold them accountable, how are we holding ourselves accountable? Right. You go to a service delivery and you're like, well, I can give you 200 so that you move me ahead of the line. So as a people, we have just made corruption sort of a DNA part, be in our DNA, because we want to run things from the point of tokenism. And that is why you see, we are saying we have bad leaders.
The coin, did you say that even Kenyans have been pushed to the wall to dance to the tune? Because you want to do things right, but things are not moving, and the only option on the table is part with something.
That is why I'm saying,
what do you do when you're in a crisis?
That is why I'm saying that it is a conversation we must have as leaders and as the Kenyan people. It is not pinpointing fingers at the leadership that we have or the people who are in power running governance and different sectors. It is also pointing a finger at ourselves and saying, if I refuse to give the 200 shillings to go on top of the line, am I going to get service delivery? So for us, I think it is a social and systemic issue that we must deal with, and it can't be done overnight. I mean, let's be honest. If you have an addiction, for example, let's say you have an addict to maybe any drug or substance use, it doesn't happen. The cold turkey method doesn't really always give the best results. So we cannot just say right now that the president is going to solve everything that has been simmering since 60 years post-independence in one day.
All right.
It's not realistic.
I want us, in the few minutes that we have left, to talk about whether there's going to be a new normal in Parliament based on what happened the last time members of Parliament were there. Parliament is resuming its business today. I don't know whether things are going to be, is it going to be business as usual? There was a very strong voice, Mheshimiwa Ochieng, that the young people sent with the invasion, if you ask me. You know, from where you sit, how are you interpreting
Sefin, I'm the only non-member of Parliament to go first.
Yes.
And then the members of Parliament
That's okay.
can then come in. First is to note that during this moment that we have had as Kenyans, something has shifted. Increasingly, you're seeing members of Parliament going back to their true selves. And I've always said, the August House is full of brilliant people. But when they go into political sycophancy, we lose it completely. Now, when Kenyans decided to engage them directly,
literally.
Like what? I like the diplomatic language.
We were running.
I like the diplomatic.
Ishmo and I were running.
If you had time, I would wanted to hear how that day was for you, but then proceed.
And in Parliament, in different spaces, you can see members of Parliament. There was this notion of, hey, you know, there is a presidency. Now they realize there is a people. Members of Parliament increasingly realize there is a people who elect us, who we ought to continuously and consistently represent. I also think this will address what Jerry is raising around tokenism, because I expect members of Parliament will now be asked about their legislative, their oversight and representation mandate going forward. Luckily, we have a very good opportunity to check if the lessons have kicked in properly. The budget.
So it is not over.
The budget has been tabled as a supplementary budget.
Yes.
Some of us have submitted. We always engage Parliament because it is the ultimate, the one that holds government money. They make budget as a supplementary budget. We look forward to what Parliament will do with that, because austerity measures, the budget cuts that are being proposed, is not what is envisaged by Article 223 of the Constitution. It is forgotten expenditure. Expenditure that has already been incurred and needs the approval of Parliament. We hope that Parliament will innovate what it means to amend an Appropriations Act and give us the true meaning of constitutionalism in Parliament. Cabinet is coming. And I'm sure Kenyans will provide memoranda physically in Parliament. Now we have Twitter Spaces and digital spaces as part of the spaces that Kenyans occupy.
Yeah.
During the Reject the Finance Bill initiatives, you realized members of Parliament went ahead. David Njeri here have said they spoke to their people. We are looking forward to members of Parliament going back to the people they represent and asking them, what do you want in a cabinet?
All right. All right.
What do you want in a budget?
All right.
And the parliamentary leadership. I saw the speaker yesterday mention that the president can dismiss and appoint. I would urge that the speaker allows the august house to return to being an august house.
All right.
A truly respected institution.
All right. Mheshimiwa Chinga, I also want to hear your thoughts about
you know,
how you're going to act now. In this
I believe that Parliament has been indicted, and rightly so,
yeah,
in my opinion, for allowing too much to happen without us putting, because you're supposed to be the last best hope for the country.
Yeah.
But in my 3 terms in Parliament now, I believe there are times when we've not done well. And I want to request members of Parliament, wherever they be, let this, in quotes, revolution not be one where you are hoping, you're hiding somewhere in the bush that is going to pass, and then you resume your normal.
New normal.
No. This is going to be the new normal.
It's not going anywhere.
Okay? And I said here that these young men and women have woken us up from a very deep slumber in terms of what we are as Parliament. And I hope that we are all now awake, and that we are going forward and ensure that everything we do, we put public participation and public opinion in the forefront. Let's listen to Kenyans. Let's listen to those who voted for us. Let's listen to public sentiment on matters where their interests are concerned. I believe that the decision that starts this afternoon should be different. Because these young guys, and as Lena has said, these young guys have made all of us find our voices. And I hope we'll not lose those voices again. And while at it, I also just want to ask the executive, allow Parliament room to operate. You know, allow Parliament to do its job. Let's not be too much, let's not have too much executive presence in Parliament. And also at the leadership level also in Parliament, let's try to build a Parliament that all of us can be proud of. That's what I want to say this morning.
I wanted to pick up from where he's left and how things are going to be different. You know, the concern has been the influence of actually what he has mentioned, the influence of the executive in Parliament. People raised reservations even with the finance bill. It was not new. People had complained about the finance bill. It was still passed overwhelmingly by the members of Parliament. I mean, how is this going to be different going forward?
I want to say that without an iota of doubt, members of Parliament are solely responsible for any legislation passed on the floor of Parliament. Because at the end of the day, you must call yourself to order as a representative of the people. And remember that sovereignty in regard to a constitution is vested in the people. So what we do, we are mere representatives of the people. So the power that we exercise on the floor of Parliament must be exercised in consultation with the people who elected us. And that is why, even as a Kenya Kwanza and a UDA member of Parliament, I voted no for the finance bill because I had to consult the people of Kirinyaga County and represent their views on the floor of Parliament. We cannot peg it on the executive because the president was not in Parliament to vote for the finance bill. Individual representatives of the people cast their votes. Your name was called as Njeri Maina member for Kirinyaga County. You voted in your own individual capacity, and we must be solely responsible if Parliament loses its independence. And as a closing remark, allow me to say that we must always adhere to what the people want us to represent on their behalf. And as an institution, you know, we're like now baptized, I can say. You know, once you get saved, you get baptized and you see the light from a pole to a soul. So I can say perhaps because of the running that day we ran. I mean, it was helter-skelter. Perhaps now we have, you know, wholly seen the light and we have become souls.
Baptized. Mheshimiwa Onyonka.
I am so happy today because I've sat with my colleagues and we are somehow, even when we come from different political persuasions, we kind of agree on where we are. My worry about members of parliament is some of your colleagues have not yet understood where we are. That is why I've been raising issues about, don't you think there's a need for us to reconsider the role of CDF? Don't we need to collapse bursaries so that the money can then directly go to free education for our children? Why are we giving the Ministry of Education 630 billion? Salaries for teachers and professors are at about 274 billion. So you have another extra 300 billion. What does it do? I mean, these are the things that Kenyans are beginning to ask. And I think from what I've heard my colleagues say, I pray that they will look at this cabinet appointment by the president on merit, that they will not be petty, that for the first time they understand that the public is watching the National Assembly keenly. At the Senate, we are watching keenly. I can tell you we have agreed. We are not reducing the money that is going to the county governments, even when we know that the governors, some of them are really misusing, abusing, stealing this money and everything. The fact is, let's follow the law. The law says once we've passed that shareable revenue, leave it. And anyway, what we added was what? 10 billion? I can just tell the president with a stroke of the pen where he can get 10 billion from. I mean, David, the issues, my leader, for example, you saw yesterday, the governor of Kakamega spent 24 million shillings during Madaraka to buy flowers. Bungoma. And when we went to the hospital, and I want to tell him here today, women were lying on the floor. That is the insincerity and the inconsequential thoughts that we have as leadership, where we think that for us to buy flowers, it's more important than when we went to his hospital and found 4 or 5 women lying on the floor. They don't have beds, which you can make with from Juakali with a cost of 10,000 each bed. So this is the insensitivity with which we have mistreated our people. I just want to say that to the president, we are not raising issues about him personally. We are part of the problem. We have participated in this corruption, mismanagement, and the destruction of this republic. Let him take it upon himself and get people of good faith so that we can start at least, we say, this time we are fixing the financial. Thank you. Can I tell you something in this studio? The IFMI system, David, only became owned by the Kenyan government 2 months ago. Previously, it was owned by a private company. And this is the financial platform that handles 4 trillion shillings of your money. How did that happen? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. When we are talking about KRA, I don't have to criticize and tell anybody how a mistake was made. We know how people were employed. Can we stop that nonsense? All
right, Mheshimiwa Onyonka, allow me to take a few...
before you take, I just want to make a plea to the police. Please, don't kill people today. Don't shoot the liabilities today.
Thank you.
Allow these young guys to express themselves. Please, we are tired of blood every Tuesday. Don't kill any more person today, please. Thank you.
All right. I want us to sample feedback from our viewers, what you have been saying with regards to the conversation we've been having this morning as we look at the state of our country. Kiprono Abraham, one, you're saying our MPs should not be held hostage by Gen Zs, especially on their role of vetting CS nominees. That is their role given by Kenyans, and exercising their knowledge and wisdom should not be extra legally checked. Allow them to do their job. That is Kiprono. Crispinus Adams, you're saying, as a nation, we must accept that there are genuine issues of great concern that must be dealt with. The current problems affect all Kenyans, not just the Gen Zs. As a matter of fact, people of all ages took to the streets. And yeah, that's your view. Agumba Steve, you're saying we want to see a changed August House with nothing like abiding to some of the parliamentary group meetings at State House, but independently articulating and legislating without fear or favor, but the interest of the common mwananchi. We have Ole Shonko, you're saying, apart from being leaderless and formless, the Gen Zs are also jobless and hopeless. Education, agriculture, health, and manufacturing is not working.
True.
We have Norbert_Awor. You're saying we know that we know what is ailing this country, and the president is not a visitor in Jerusalem. He knows that corruption, tribalism, impunity, and self-importance has gone on for far too long. We need to reset this country. Thank you, Norbert, for your views. Of course, among what you've been saying on social media, we appreciate all of you who took time to just engage us on this very important conversation that we were having in studio this particular morning, and of course just weighing in on what should be happening going forward. We expect Parliament to resume today, and like they're saying in studio, it's not going to be business as usual. The members of Parliament there are discussing a lot that they're going to be weighing in on. I have had with me in studio this morning Njeri Maina, the woman representative for Kirinyaga County, also having this conversation with Mheshimiwa David Ochieng, the Member of Parliament for Ugenya constituency. We've also been discussing this with Diana Gishengo, the Executive Director of the Institute of Social Accountability, and also Richard Onyonka, Senator Kisii County. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies, for creating time this morning. We will be shifting gears going into the social hour in just a bit, so do stay for that and much more. Continue engaging us on social media, but for now, allow us to take a very short break.
Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you
very much.